Clark. Board Member Collins.
Here.
Board Member McDonald.
Here.
Board Member Campenny.
Here.
Board Member Breckville.
Here.
Community Redevelopment Board, Chair Campenny.
Here.
Vice Chair Breckville.
Here.
Board Member Kukovis. Board Member Hawkins. Board Member McChrystal. Board Member Moser. And Board Member Noble.
Okay, let's do the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just have the pause, will you? No comment. You ask Otters. There's no comment, right? He wrote an article. Okay, well, I don't really care. We all pause.
Can I get approval of the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have approval, we have a second.
Madam Mayor, does it matter if we don't have a quorum on the CRB?
CRB, they don't.
There's no
nothing
action
to vote
items for them today anyway.
Okay.
Anyone from the audience? Okay. We have a motion, we have a second. We have a roll call.
We can do it all in favor on that?
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get approval of the minutes?
So moved. Second.
Do I ask, I always forget when I ask the audience. We have a motion and a second. Anyone have any comment? See none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And do I do approval, the second one?
No.
Okay, that covered both of them. Okay, thank you.
If we could get an approval for the second one?
Yeah, move to approve the CRA minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have approval, we have a second. Anyone from the audience? I see none. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, we're going to comments from the public. Do you have any comments? Okay. Any comments from the board members?
I have one, speaking from the CRB.
Yes, sir.
I think we're going to lose 3 more members after this meeting. I don't know, Mary will tell us at some point.
It was decided a time ago that the failure to attend the joint meeting.
Okay, but there are people who have missed 2 meetings in a row. This would have been the 3rd meeting.
Right, but it's,
I understand, you've made that clear.
so we also have been meaning, and I think it's on the next CRA agenda, to address with you the issue of having the CRB members attend this meeting. The truth of it is that the intention to have 2 members of the CRB meeting with the CRA anyway effectively provided that notice, and if there was going to be a need for quarterly joint meetings, then there's no reason to have members of the CRB on the CRA, and so it becomes duplicative. But when you talk to the CRB members, and I know, for example, one of the newer members, he drives from Jupiter. For him, last week, they had a CRB meeting, and on the CRB meeting was the AIRS program and the BURP program. So they would have done the exact same 2 presentations that you guys are going to do today. They'd have to sit through it, but wouldn't be allowed to vote. And then,
Well, I think that's something we can discuss at the next meeting, but my
Right.
point is, once again, your members, because I think Mark and I are at large, are not showing up to meetings.
they're actually, you're appointed by the CRA board, but you guys are invited to vote today and participate. Historically, their feedback has been, we don't get to participate in the joint meeting, why do we need to go?
Mr. Mortel, can I just finish my
Yeah.
remarks, and you can correct me?
I'm just letting you know, they're not here to speak for themselves, you're raising it when they're not present.
Well, I'm raising it because the county commission is here, the city commission is here, and the CRA is here. And I'm just saying that it makes it very hard at the CRB meetings because we fight to have a quorum. So I'm going to suggest that you tell your people, come, and if they can't come, then appoint other people.
I agree with you, Tom. This is twice I've gotten a CRB member and So I get it. Even when you change it, sometimes it doesn't work out. But it is summertime, people can be gone and on vacation, I understand that. But yes, and like Mike said, we need to bring it up where they don't have to come here.
Well,
That's the next discussion.
one of the questions I have is, I think that the problem is that board is a volunteer board, and people are coming from different locations if you're having it in the day. You know, if you're having it at 4 o'clock or whatever, that's, you know, people have to haul from work someplace. They might not be in the area. They may live here, but they're not here all day long. You know, I would suggest that if we're having problems, we might look at changing that time to an evening time. And,
We could bring that up at a.
yeah, I think that might help a little.
Be 2 items. we'll talk
And it would
about.
probably be good for residents who want to come and, you know, find out what's going on too, that might not be able to make it during the day.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Mary, could you send all the commissioners their appointees' attendance records?
Sure will.
'Cause I think that mine has been showing up, but I'm not positive, because I've been talking to them about the meeting, so, for the regular meeting, maybe not the joint meeting today, but,
Will do.
so I'd just like
Thank
to
you.
know, so.
And I notice it too. I hear you. I notice it when they're here or not. I look. So, okay. Yes, ma'am, Miss Jordan?
Yes, hello.
Let
I,
me-
good, sorry,
Go
did you want
ahead,
me to
go
go ahead?
Yeah.
I can't see you, so, good
I was gonna-
afternoon.
I was going to read it.
Oh, you can go ahead then.
Maybe I should. Our action is 3 applications for the business improvement reimbursement recovery for fiscal year 2024. Lee, you want to go ahead and read that? Or should I?
Of course, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Resolution number 10-2024 CRA, a resolution of the Board of Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Stuart, Florida, authorizing award to applicants from the Business Improvement Grant Program for fiscal year 2024, providing for conflicts, severability, providing for an effective date, and for other purposes.
Hey, Jordan.
Thank you. Good afternoon, CRA board members. Jordan Pinkston, CRA program manager for the record. The Community Redevelopment Agency's Business Improvement Grant Program is an incentive program designed to encourage visible exterior improvements to existing commercial properties and to encourage private investment within the CRA. The program provides a reimbursement grant of up to $10,000 of public funds per property to match private funds to pay for the design and completion of property improvements. Funds are appropriated annually by the CRA. The projects are evaluated based on 4 categories, including overall visual impact of the property with the proposed improvements, how the project relates to the urban street and improves pedestrian walkability, private investment to grant ratios, and improvements that help to preserve the historic building. The program aims to encourage shade over pedestrian walkways, improve conditions for walking and pedestrian activities, and we amended the program guidelines to encourage businesses to voluntarily upgrade landscaping as part of the overall improvements. The CRA did public outreach to encourage the businesses to apply for the program. Outreach efforts include an electronic newsletter to the city's contact list, distributing flyers to local businesses, mailing postcards to local business owners, and social media platforms such as Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. It is important to note that applicants have been finding it increasingly difficult to meet the minimum application requirements for this program. Therefore, staff extended the deadline twice this fiscal year to acquire more viable applications. The CRA received a total of 9 applications. Of those, only 4 applications are eligible to be considered for funding for fiscal year 2024. None of the applications met the minimum point requirements for funding. However, after working extensively with the applicants, staff feels comfortable moving forward with each of the following applications to offer financial support in funding these business improvements. Our first application is located on lots 7 through 15 on Southeast Osceola Street. The applicant is requesting grant assistance for repaving and restriping the parking lot. The total estimated improvement cost will be $24,825. The existing parking lot is cracking in multiple locations, and the striping is almost non-existent. Proposed resurfacing will include leveling, base rock, a concrete pour, restriping, and new curb stops. The proposed improvements qualify for funding under our program guidelines. The improvements will have a visual, urban, street, and economic impact. The property is in the old historic downtown district as it is a high priority area for this program. The property is adjacent to old downtown undergrounding improvement projects and is a contributing historic building to the historic downtown district dedication that the CRA is pursuing. Staff recommends approval with the following conditions. The applicant shall install landscape screening on the east side of the parking lot exit, and the applicant shall install screening to cover the air conditioning units on the south side of the building facing the Colorado Inn. The second application is located on 400 Southwest 7th Street. The applicant is requesting grant assistance for improvements to enhance the curb appeal and meet new code requirements by adding a monument sign. The total estimated improvement cost will be $19,259. There's currently no signage in front of the building. The applicant is proposing installation of a new custom double-sided stucco monument sign with illuminated LED light boxes. The sign finish makes the monument impervious to rot, termites, and moisture for a maximum durability. The sign will be cemented into the ground with galvanized steel pipes. It is important to note that the applicant is also making significant landscape improvements to the property. As you can see, the landscape plan consists of new palm trees, shrubs, sod, mulch, and flowers. The improvements began in March and are expected to be completed by the end of June. The total expected improvement cost for the landscaping is $51,045. These proposed improvements qualify for funding under our program guidelines. The improvements will have visual and economic impact. The property is in a high priority area for this program, and the monument sign is part of a larger landscape project that will improve the exterior of the building and serve as a catalyst for redevelopment activity in the neighborhood. Staff recommends approval. The next application is located on 420 Southeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. The applicant is requesting grant assistance to enhance curb appeal and create a tranquil sanctuary area with entryway railings, decking, landscaping, restriping, and a carport. The total estimated improvement cost will be $22,300. The existing property could use a facelift to make the entrance more inviting and comfortable. There is currently no seating for visitors or screening to block the exposed utilities and trash cans. Proposed landscaping will include flower beds to the entrance of the property, surrounding the property lot and facing MLK Boulevard. Flowers and greenery include evergreen shrubs, purple impatiens, purple salvia, and hedges will also be added to screen the exposed trash cans and air conditioning units with additional shrubs. Flowers and landscaping will enclose a new raised deck with benches for guests to have a tranquil space to relax outside. The current steps to the building will have railings added to ensure the safety of visitors. A carport will be placed on the property to cover the mortuary's business vehicles from the Florida sun. It is important to note that the applicant's property is adjacent to the MLK Complete Street project. This project includes elements that will create shared use paths for both pedestrians and bicyclists, on-street parking, bike racks, high visibility crosswalks, a mid-block plaza area, street lights, and landscaping. I've included a snippet of the improvements proposed on MLK in front of the actual property. These proposed improvements qualify for funding under our program guidelines. The improvements will have a visual, urban, street, and economic impact. The property is in a high-traffic visible area and a high-priority area for this program. As mentioned, the property is adjacent to the MLK Complete Street project and will serve as a catalyst for redevelopment activity on the corridor. Staff recommends approval. And then the last application is located on 1295 Southeast Dixie Cutoff Road. The applicant is requesting grant assistance to improve curb appeal and functionality of the property to install a new fence. The total improvement cost is $14,500. The existing fence is 360 feet, and most of the fence borders Southeast Dixie Cutoff Road. The fence is in disrepair and improvements are needed. The proposed fence will include a 6-foot privacy fence with new board-on-board and galvanized posts 8 feet on the center, which will ensure a more stable and longer-lasting fence. The improvements will have a visual and economic impact. and the property is located within the grant's priority area with a fence abutting along Dixie Highway cutoff. The applicant has already completed landscaping in front of the building. As you can see, and the property does not have sidewalks, so no shade trees would be recommended along this road. Staff recommends approval. The Community Redevelopment Board voted unanimously in favor of approving all eligible applications. Staff is seeking a motion to approve resolution number 10-2024 CRA, authorizing the award amount for each application for fiscal year 2024 BURP grant cycle.
Are we looking for a motion on each property separately or on the total?
That's up to your discretion.
I'd make a motion to approve the staff's recommendation.
On all of them?
On all of them, yeah.
Okay. We have,
Now, can we do discussion for just a minute?
yeah, we will.
I've been told that I'm one that beats a dead horse, so here I go again. But, you know, we had a hard time finding people that qualified for this, which tells me that it's not really hitting the mark in some manner. And I think the problem that I see with the program is that the amount of money that we award per project is too little for somebody to really make a big difference unless they're already doing the project and we're just giving them some extra money. And I don't know if it makes sense to give them extra money if they were going to do the project and could afford it in the first place. You know, I think that we need to look at this program to see if these grants should be bigger, more focused on what the staff can go out and potentially go out and find locations where we can make a difference. And then we can, because that's the whole purpose of CRA is to improve the blight, whether it's economic or visual, and increase what we're doing there. So if we're gonna spend the money, I would rather see us find properties already and go out and approach and say, look, would you be interested in the grant? And then see how much we're gonna match on it. But giving them enough dollars that it makes sense, and it's not just throwing money against a project they were already gonna do.
I've always been for raising it. And when I went over all this, I thought, well, maybe we could just do, it would be 30,000. We raise it to 15. They put 15 in it, and we can give up to 15 if we want to start smaller. But I do agree. And any of the other commissioners have any comments on that? Oh, I want to acknowledge that Aaron Hawkins is here.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to know how the decision is made. So you say you had received 4 applications. Actually, I think you said you received more than that, but only
9.
4 qualified. 9?
9. Right.
So none of the applications meet the minimum point requirements. So are there 4 elements that are each equally weighted? How was the decision made?
Sure. So there is a metrics that we go by, which is included in the application packet, and that's how we determine the scores. But in this case, there were incomplete applications. So meaning 2 of the applicants didn't have their updated business tax license. So I couldn't move forward with that. Other one did not want to move forward because they couldn't get drainage quotes, so they pulled their application. Another one was for awnings, which we're going to be addressing that in the coming months with redoing the business improvement guidelines. And another one was not giving me quotes. So that's why it goes down to 4 that I think we're still eligible, even though they didn't
Are
meet.
these generally accepted standard metrics in CRAs for these types of projects, or
We have,
did the CRB come up with them, or?
yes, it was brought before the CRB and CRA, I believe, throughout the years, before my time, but we've been using those metrics for years now.
We've changed the metrics almost every year for the past decade, I believe.
Did you say that the awnings awnings are currently not allowed?
I don't know. I don't remember.
So with this particular application that came forward, they were not allowed because they were just recovering existing awnings. And right now with the burp guidelines, only new awnings are covered under, but that is going to be amended. We're in the process. That's coming forward soon too.
But at some point, we have to determine whether this is a good use of money. And I've never thought this was a good use of money. But, so how much do we throw at the wall for a few businesses instead of trying to take that money and use it for infrastructure in the CRA? I mean, I think Mark is right. They would probably do this work without this money. And this is nice that we're giving it to them, but is this what we want to do, or do we want to use the money for something else? If we're going to redo it and keep giving more money, well, it's only going to be several, not the same several businesses, but 4 or 5 businesses that are going to take advantage of it. So is it better for us to use that money for infrastructure in the CR?
There was another question I had too, that I thought, instead of 5, let's get to 30,000, that we should do 3 instead of 5. And keep it at that, but be a little more money.
3, you mean 3 businesses?
Yeah.
So we decide 3 businesses out of, I don't know how many are in the
It's just my
CRA,
thoughts.
200? 3 are the ones that we're going to subsidize. They win the lottery. And everybody else who pays into the CRA gets nothing. I'd rather use money for every.
Well, if you look at the improvements, you were gonna do 30,000 in improvement costs to get up to 15, none of the applicants spent 30,000. So none of these projects would have reached that threshold.
Man, can I just ask an additional question?
Mr. Collins?
How many? So how many businesses have benefited from this project over the course of its existence is what I wanted to ask.
50, not including this year.
And how many times, if you had to estimate, we had repeating businesses?
Maybe 4 or 5 off the top of my head.
So really, it's like 45 businesses rather than 3 or 4. Because you got to think about it long term. It's over the course of the time that we're supposed to be improving the CRA, building the wealth of the area, and, you know, helping these people do that. So it's not really 3 businesses a year, but, you know, I mean, it's been, what, 10 years?
Around that.
So it's 45 businesses over 10 years.
It's been going on since 2016.
Okay.
I think one of the problems is, are we focused on businesses or are we focused on landlords? Because, you know, a large portion of where this money is really going is to landlords, not necessarily to businesses. So that's another factor. So if I'm a business downtown and I want to put a new awning in, you know, basically I got to go talk to my landlord and see if my landlord's going to put that in. And so anyway, I just think the staff has a better handle on what kind of improvements we can make that will actually add value and get us more bang for the buck. You know, if I have a problem with spending $1 to get $1 back, you know, I mean, it's just a change. But if we're spending $1 and we're getting $10 back, I'm okay with that. And I think that's where I think this needs some tweaking. I think that the staff needs to help identify businesses where improvements to their property, whether it's the business owner or the landlord, is going to make a significant impact on the dollars we get to keep. That's all I'm saying.
Ms. Pinal to come up, and he does have the knowledge and what
Yes.
those people want.
Yeah, so we do use our community services department to help us promote the program, and they do go out and identify businesses that could benefit from the program. But those businesses might not be ready to invest in their property, so they're not coming forward. It's the people that have been saving money that they wanted to make the investment in their property are coming to us for a match. And even if they're asking us for $5,000 and they're providing $5,000, they could use their own funding, their own financials to do other improvements. So it's not just like, okay, this is it, I'm just doing minimum improvements. The match helps them to do additional improvements to their property. So I think it's a benefit to property owners and the CRA.
I had one more question.
Yes.
Sorry. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I would just like to follow up. So, Tom, when you indicated that the metrics are changing on an annual basis, you know, what are you trying to achieve by changing those metrics? Does it go to Mark's
It
point?
comes to the CRA board, change the metrics, but on the CRB board, staff looks and says, perhaps we need to change this and allow this, not allow that. Because, as you just said, they have the expertise. That's fine. You know, I look at this as two different things. The CRA board and the commission says, spend the money. We have to spend the money according to the rules. If we have a bigger discussion, and the bigger discussion says, should we be spending this money on this? That's different. And so, I'm always gonna, if staff makes a recommendation, I don't think this is working, let's do this instead. I'm gonna say yes, because we're gonna spend the money. I'm asking now whether we should.
And in response to the question of what changed, CRB a few years ago decided that paying for impact windows didn't enhance the community, because if you were driving by in a car, there would be no way to determine whether it was an impact window or not. And if you're trying to beautify the area with the CRA plan, the type of glass didn't really make a difference as far as beautification. It was just enhancing the individual's business. Now, there was presentations during that same discussion that will actually, it does beautify because over time it's a better product, et cetera, doesn't wear as much, but the board at the time reached consensus that they did not want to support hurricane windows. And then another time, there were several people, because the code requires downtown businesses to have the awnings out to the sidewalk to provide shade. And then the board said, well, yeah, but they already have framed awning, therefore if they're just replacing the canvas, that's a repair of an awning, that's not a new awning. So they voted to make it so anybody that already had an awning couldn't get it replaced. That was a modification. Along that theory, that would mean that, like, the guy that already has the fence wouldn't qualify for a new fence because he already had a fence. It's just a question of what is the soup du jour. Like, you know, sometimes you just feel like there's a lot of particular thing, and as a result, the boards reacted accordingly. If you look at the CRA plan itself, the intention of the CRA is it's a promise from the community to the outward, whether it's landlords or tenants, doesn't matter, but to the community to say, look, we're going to draw a circle around this area, and we're going to designate this as a focused reinvestment area. The city is going to reward you for committing to putting your business there or buying your property there, and we're going to reinvest all the money. And that's why the general fund regulations to create the TIF can only be spent in CRA to fulfill that promise. I agree with Mr. Campeni to the extent that this particular project, you know, the BURP program, doesn't necessarily change the world by any means as far as the amount of money spent. But the converse of that could be said as well. It doesn't bankrupt the CRA either, and the amount of money that's spent is a token of the appreciation of the CRA to say, listen, we don't care how big or how small you are, you're in the CRA. We want to make sure that there's opportunities for people big and small. And instead of like the RETA program where you might, you know, tax credits or something like that, this is just a smaller one, the smaller guy to be able to say, look, we're going to try and help you out. But again, it's all policy, and the board can do whatever you want. The biggest issue that I've seen since 2016 as it relates to this program is fundamentally the match. And that is, there are certain times that certain people know they're gonna make those improvements. They wait to do it till now, they get the match, they do it, and they were gonna do it anyway. There's probably a list that the board could go around and identify properties within the CRA that you say, you know, these houses are blighted, or this area is blighted, we could identify these and say, there's no match. We're going to give you $5,000 or $7,500 to fix that blight, if that was the intention of the board.
I wanted to say also that some of the landlords, they're never going to fix it up. They just don't want to. And some of the blighted buildings, the landlords, I don't think they would ever fix up. So my goal is to, with a little more money, is to give them that incentive to fix the place up. Go ahead, Commissioner Capeni.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Aaron was really first.
Oh, go ahead, Aaron.
I just had another question about, I know it's about beautification, and that's really important, but are there any figures, does the CRA have any figures on how much over the span of this program's existence has come back in the TIF? Like how much of the investment has accounted for the increase in property values?
So I actually did do some calculations based on the board's recommendation at the last meeting, and by using the data provided by the property appraiser, we can analyze the assessed values the year prior to the improvements. For example, for fiscal year 2022, those who participated in the BERT program had an increase of 28.8% in their property values. So every year, if you go through and break it down, there is an increase. There's never a decline since 2016. I just pulled that particular year because there is a lot of applications as an example. But I have an entire spreadsheet I can share with
Okay.
you.
Yeah, that'd be
you'd like.
great. Is there a breakdown of like dollar spent per dollar return through taxes?
We only have what the project cost would be and then what our contribution would be, like that total. And then the assessed values, but I don't have like a dollar for dollar, if
Okay.
that's what you're asking.
Just wondering. Thank you.
Board Member Penny.
Well, I'm just going to make one quick comment. You know, the other thing I would ask us to think about, yes, this is a quick one, ask us to think about is, do we have to give them the money? Couldn't we loan them the money? I mean, why couldn't we loan them the money and then earn a return on it? It could be small, 3%, 2% interest or something like that, and loan it to them, and then, then they could do bigger projects, and we would have, because part of the problem here is, in downtown, is financing. You're talking mixed-use buildings, you're talking older buildings. There's not a lot of money out there. It's either direct investor money or it's SBA, so, and a lot of this stuff doesn't qualify. If it's mixed use, SBA doesn't qualify. So part of it is people have to wait until they can refinance to get the money to be able to do some of this stuff. If we could provide, instead of, a blanket grant, if we provided up to a certain amount as a loan, I think we could accomplish more.
I don't think $10,000 is a lot of money, but I don't know if I'd want to myself do that, because I would be afraid I wouldn't get paid and I'd end up with some mess on my hands. But
Do you want to say
Yeah,
something?
we would need staff to manage the bond and loaning and things like that. But I do want to mention that we are breaking down the program, so, we're going to make it more eligible for applicants, and also have a landscape program that they're eligible to receive $5,000. So you're talking about up to $15,000 that a property owner can get. So it kind of goes with what Mayor is saying, up to $15,000 to benefit the property.
great, I like that. Okay, well, if there's not any more, yes, sir.
Well, I just think, first, I don't know if Mr. Mortel is a socialist, a communist, or a free marketeer, because he really can take any position, and I guess that's his training as an attorney.
I don't actually have a position. I was just pointing out that historically, that's kind of what I've heard the board say.
And I always have a little levity in my meetings. But, I really, I believe we could do more for this by taking this money and taking a section of the CRA and say, let's spend it right here, especially for commercial, in the commercial area. Let's spend it here, so that whatever we could do, break the CRA into 6 or 7 different areas and say, we're gonna spend $75,000 or $100,000
On another person's property?
on the CRA, no, in the CRA, for our infrastructure. Infrastructure is really something that brings back value. Or secondly, I wouldn't have a problem if we did a small arena program for these individual areas. Because if supposedly these businesses, the 45 businesses that have been touched, have a 28%, I think you said, increase, why not touch a lot more businesses by spending the money within a specified area and increasing it? Because of course, $50,000. But if we could do $150, $200, $250,000, well, we can give them either a RETA tax break, or we could just do the infrastructure ourselves. So I'm just for trying to help everyone, not just those that happened on the program.
So, Madam Mayor, yeah, this is a very wide-ranging discussion, and in the context of the current motion for approval and second, I'm not sure it's appropriate.
Well, it's a discussion.
Yeah.
Anytime we're giving money to an individual, be it a business or an individual, I am more than enthusiastic in support that the city should be evaluating the effectiveness of those gifts or those grants. As you know, when we did Main Street, I felt that we should be forced to review that on an annual basis. So I think Chair Campenni's suggestion is a very good one, to go back and take a look at this program. What were our goals, working with Pinal? Have we achieved them? Is there a better way to do it? And a comprehensive and detailed discussion on those issues. It sounds like your group is well-informed here. Aaron certainly seems to understand what opportunities there are, and I would welcome a suggestion from the CRB to the commission regarding this program, both in has it accomplished what we wanted it to, and what improvements can be made.
So I think you think.
We are coming before the board with the Burp amendment, the landscape program, so that would be a good time to discuss.
And we'll have another year, correct, in between the next time?
Right, so the next
So we
fiscal
can
cycle
Yeah, yeah,
is
This
October
out,
1st.
would be great. Okay, well, I do have if no more comments, I'll get comments from the public in a minute, but we do have approval by Mark Beckville, Commissioner Rich. Do we have any comments from the public that would speak on this, would like to? I see none. We'll have a vote, a roll call.
Board Member Collins?
Yes.
Board Member McDonald?
Yes.
Board Member Breckville?
Yes.
Board Member Campenny?
Yes,
Vice Chair Rich?
Yes.
Chair Bruner?
Yes.
and I just want to comment that we only have one other CRB member here, but I think he added quite a bit to the discussion on this particular item. So that's why it may be very useful to continue to have CRB members besides Mark, whoever they choose next. I do think, to your knowledge.
Or, no, I'm not gonna say that. Okay. All right, we're gonna move on to the heirs property assistant program, and I'll let Mr. Baggett read this,
All
our
right.
attorney.
Resolution number 9-2024 CRA, a resolution of the Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Stuart, Florida, approving implementation and administering of the heirs property assistant program for properties located within the community redevelopment area, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Thank you. Pinal Gandhi Savda, CRA Director for the record. So the CRA is proposing a new heirs property assistance program to provide legal assistance to clear title on properties and help families stay in their home. So what is heirs property? It refers to properties that's passed on by inheritance from the owner, next to kin, or relatives without clear titles. This often happens when the owner dies without leaving a will or estate planning, and it's transferred to multiple family members. Sometimes the property owner chooses to leave the land to multiple family owners, members, but the property has not completed the formal transfer of the title. And so this causes to have a cloudy title, meaning that they can't show clear proof of who the owner is, and there are multiple owners, so their fraction, the property is owned by fraction of family members. So why is this required? It's good to have clear titles for bank loans, federal grants, such as the CDBG grants, FEMA disaster assistance, home insurance, obtaining any building permits, filing for homestead exemption, which can have property taxes savings on properties. So why is heirs property a problem? What happens is when you have heir property, we have increased dilapidated homes, vacancy due to absentee owners, unable to obtain loan to upkeep the property, lack of home insurance, so you can't cover repairs or rebuild homes in the event that there's a hurricane or fire causing damage to the home. Difficult to receive aid from government assistance programs. They're vulnerable to losing their property because of unpaid property taxes, and then it often affects the community vitality. So why do we want to address this? We want to address this issue because we want to keep the family in we want to keep the home in the family and building generational wealth. We want to keep the people in their homes. Preserving existing housing stock can help to upkeep the property and living conditions, increase equity, community preservation, and revitalize local tax base. So here's some data. I was able to get some data from county's property appraiser's office on heirs property. This map shows that we have about 31 parcels that are heirs properties within the CRA. I do want to point out that in my presentation to the East Stuart Historic Advisory Committee and CRB, I did report that there were 46 properties that were heir properties, but after reviewing the list, I did find that there were some errors because just because they had the word estate in the name, it was actually picked up in the search query. So I did confirm with the property appraiser's office and removed some of those parcels that were picked up by accident. So in reality, there are 31 parcels within the CRA with the heirs listing.
31 down from 46?
There were 46 because they had the word estate in it. So when we did the query, it just picked it up, but it could be just a real estate LLC or something like that. So we removed those out of the list. So there are actually 31 properties within the CRA, and of those, 15 are within the East Stuart neighborhood. This number did not change from what I presented to the boards earlier this month. So the CRA is proposing a new heirs assistance program to assist homeowners to gain clear titles. Eligible properties have to be within the CRA. It is a voluntary program, so the interested homeowners will have to apply for the program with the CRA. The eligible applicant may be qualified to receive legal assistance at no cost to them. And the program is intended to assist homeowners through the probate process so that we can clear the title and transfer the property to the rightful owner. Uncontested matters, meaning that if there is some dispute by family members who the rightful owner is, we're not going to get into that. We just want to help clear the title through probate process. The program, like I said, does not cover costs to litigate rightful ownership. The cost can vary depending on the case, but based on some of the research I did, it's estimated to be approximately $1,500 to $3,000 per case. Upon approval of the program, the CRA will obtain proposals from qualified providers for probate legal services to assist these property owners gain clear title. The CRA will manage the program, will review and accept applications. Once approved, the CRA will contact the attorney or legal firm that's been selected through the RFP process and begin working with the applicant. This program is, you will see it in the budget for fiscal year 2025. I'm budgeting $25,000 for this program, and you will see that in the budget hearing in September. Some of the recommendations made by the CRB is that the program should be limited to properties with assessed value of $300,000 or less, and maximum of $3,000 assistance per property. So I looked at the assessed value for 2024 for all 31 properties, and all of them were under $300,000 except one, which had an assessed value of $345,430. That one is in Harbridge. It's a residential condo building. All other properties are residential, except one property is commercial warehouse unit. So today I'm looking for feedback on the program and some discussion on CRB's recommendations, and we'll be requesting approval of resolution number 09-2024 CRA for the implementation of the program.
Thank you very much, Panal.
Madam Mayor.
Okay, we'll start, huh?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to just have an opportunity to make the motion on this. This is something that's been near and dear to my heart for the last 10 years, maybe 15. I think it's the main reason that East Stuart, to a large degree, has been left behind in the last two rises in property values we've had, because if you can't get clear title to your property, you can't borrow against it. And even though there are properties on there that aren't specifically listed, if your neighbor can't improve their property, it's affecting your property. And so so I think that real estate values and wealth from real estate transfers is a huge way to create and generate wealth generationally. And I think East Stuart has been left out because of a simple titling problem. And so that's why I really appreciate what the staff has done. I know Mike had spent a lot of time on this issue a number of years ago looking at things, and I appreciate that, and I'd like to have that opportunity to make that motion when the time comes.
Madam Mayor?
Do you want to go, Mr. Committee? No?
If you made the motion, I'll second for discussion, before we can
Okay.
discuss.
All right, we got it.
So made.
Okay. So first of all, I like the program. I think it's a good idea, but I have a few concerns. I've been involved with a lot of these through, as a process server and also assisting my wife in these kind of probate matters, doing research for. So the properties that have the estate, word estate, that means they've already opened up an estate. So it's already being probated. So I think there's a question is, if they're already probating and paying for it and moving it through the process, why would we jump in if it's already going through? Now, maybe it's stalled. The other issue is what happens, I think, is that when someone dies without a will, our attorneys can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but there's actually a state statute of terms. It goes to, there's a family tree, kids, and then if someone dies, then the grandkids and so forth. And what can end up happening is you can have multiple heirs, and then everybody wants to get paid. And so then you can end up causing the forced sale by starting these of the property, which isn't necessarily a good thing. It does homestead transfers. If they declared homestead, the property transfers to all of the heirs immediately upon declaration of homestead. But I think the real problem is the ones that don't have the word estate in front of them. That means that someone's died, they never transferred it, it's in grandma's name, but grandson is living there for 2 generations later, and those are the ones that we don't even know about because they've never opened up an estate.
But that's actually all.
Yeah.
When we did the search, what she was saying is the word estate came up to someone that actually held title as Mortel Real Estate Holdings.
Right, but she
So
also,
estate.
the estate, I saw through the list, they narrowed it down to the estate of John Smith, an estate of,
Right, and
you know,
so-
not
so-
a holding company, but there is,
So the property appraiser can provide us with the actual properties that they have where somebody was the owner and now that person is deceased and it's still that person's estate. And then if you look at the dates, and I don't think they're on this sheet, but we can look at the sheet and find, we could say anyone that the death certificate was more than 5 years ago. More than 2
right,
years
that's what, I
ago.
guess that's what I'm kind of getting at, is
And
that.
that's what we've done?
And Troy, I think part of it too is that a lot of this stuff is transferred outside of the estate.
Well,
What
yeah,
we're
if
talking
it's-
about is
if
quit
it's homestead,
claim deeds and
if
things
it's
like that.
Yeah, there's that.
And so what's more of the problem is you can't get a title policy.
Right.
That's
No,
really
no,
what the
I-
issue is.
Well, yeah, and that leads to quiet title.
Right.
Oh, and that's the next thing I was going to get at is I don't think something that has serious title issues, $3,000 is not going to cover the cost of the action to do that. It's I've been involved in a lot of quiet titles over the years in my process serving world, and when you start tracking down 25 heirs, especially, and the other thing is, I want to make sure that we don't end up doing it for people that bought tax deeds. As a business, they bought a tax deed and it needs a quiet title, and we end up doing their quiet title for them. So, but I think that you're absolutely, Mark, everything you said is absolutely correct. I think that that we should. I just need to make sure that we narrow it down so that we're actually helping the people that need to get helped, and that we're not opening a can of worms for them that ends up, we go and we pay $3,000, and all of a sudden now, it's going to need another $15,000 of legal fees, even if it's just because they have to track down 32 heirs that are living all over the country, and they don't have any additional money to pay for it. And now they're in a court action. They've filed a court action, and they have requirements based on the court requirements as well. So,
How long have some of these properties set? And no one has acknowledged or anything? I mean, is there properties that set over there 10, 20, 30 years?
I don't have the record of that. I
Yeah.
did check on if they've paid taxes over the years, and I did find that they've been paying taxes.
Yeah. That was a lot of good questions.
See, the issue, I think, Becky, is that the tax is not, I think there are a number of these properties out there where people are living in them right now, and nobody's arguing about it. It's just when they go to borrow money, they can't, because they can't get clear title. Because something has happened, transfer's taken place in a prior generation that wasn't legitimate, or that wasn't done with title insurance, and so there's no confirmed title. And Troy's right, it's probably an expensive process, but I do think that if we're gonna spend money on, the goal here should be to get it to a title policy. In other words, we need to get it to the point that at some point in time, we had clear title, we had a title policy, and we need to get to that point. And I think we need to square some of these properties away.
I just pulled up the first one as an example.
Yes, sir.
On March 28th, 1996, the property appraiser entered an order determining homestead for Viola Ingram. So 1996 was the last time. It shows that in the sales history, and as a result, it's been probably being occupied by an heir of that Viola Ingram. As Commissioner McDonald points out, there might be 5 other heirs that have an interest in it, but as I'm reading I pulled up the order just on the property appraisers. It says, on the petition of Helen Christie, in order determining homestead real property, the court finding that all interested persons have been served proper notice of hearing or waive notice thereof, the material allegations of the petition are true, that the descendant was domiciled in Martin County, Florida at the time of death, that the decedent was survived by a surviving spouse and by lineal decedents, and at the time of death, the decedent owned certain real property on which the decedent resided, is adjudged that the following described property, the undivided 1/2 interest of that certain parcel of land, commencing its stake, blah, 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 giving the legal description, parcel identification number, constituted the homestead of the decedent within the meaning of Section 4 of Article 10 of the Constitution.
Well, I wanted to say that with Pinot and our attorney, Mr. Baggett, that we're not going to spend over $3,000. You'll know what to do and to guide us. But there was one thing when you read that, Miss Ingram. I knew Miss Ingram very well, and that was a Habitat for Humanity home. How do those work when you? But that was years ago.
I mean, once you get title.
That's it. Okay. Okay.
He simply used that policy.
All right, well, if we don't have any more,
Madam Mayor?
yes, sorry.
So I did attend that East Historical Advisory Committee meeting. I was surprised the amount of concern that this program engendered. So I just want to be clear, this is completely voluntary. No owner or family member has to participate in this and take advantage of this, correct?
Correct, correct.
If we do go through this, and it does get straightened out, you do not have to sell your home. That is not a requirement of this program. And to Mark's point, it's not just loans. You can't get, you're not eligible for homestead exemption. You can't get disaster relief funds. You can't get homeowners insurance. So the ability of us to have this and then if there is a contest, if we do have feuding family members, we're not going to get involved, correct, Rebecca?
Correct, that's apparently the rules that we've set forth.
Right.
And we're also, I guess, limiting it to $300,000 or less in assessed value. Now, that would be the assessed value on the property appraiser's website, which obviously is not market value. And I did speak to a colleague who does real estate and probate in the area, and she indicated on an average house of about $400,000, that the title policy is about $2,000. That would eat up a lot of grand. But she also indicated a lot of those would require more probate, action.
I know, and I don't know that there's any direction for us to provide title insurance. I mean, I think
No, but I
that
think
the
that should be
intention
goal.
was to identify the owners and make it so that there's to finish the estate. These people are deceased, and there's a summary administration that needs to be done in order to transfer the property to the heirs. You do a summary administration.
Right.
You open up a summary administration, you say there's 3 heirs, there's nobody in dispute, they all agree that they're the heirs, and therefore you do the probate that transfers that property and does a deed that's signed by a judge transferring the original deed from, whoever the owner is to their 3 children in 3 undivided interests or whatever it is.
But Mike, I think that's why, my point is, it shouldn't just be about estates. In fact, I could care less about the estate as much as I care about the clear title. I care more about getting a title policy
Right.
that somebody has going forward. And that's the key there. Only once you have a title policy can you,
Who gets the title policy out of the 3 heirs? There's
Well,
one person living in the house and 2 heirs
no, I
living in
understand,
Atlanta.
I understand that. That would be a contested situation, you're right. But there are situations out there where they quit claim deeds 2 generations ago, and there's a person occupying it, but they can't get a title policy because nobody can go back and determine the clear title on it, because it was never cleared through with title.
I don't know that this list of names will qualify for that. What this really was the situation where generationally, somebody might have owned the house in the 60s, and then their kids started living with them, and then they passed away, and their kids one of the children continued living there, and now that person has had a child, and they're living there, and no one has any real ownership to it because there wasn't an estate done. I don't know that the city's in a position to buy title insurance,
Wait, Mike, wait.
to be buying the title
And
insurance
that's
itself.
exactly why we put a limit of $3,000 at the CRB. And this could be a very good, but it's not something that's gonna solve everyone's problem.
Right.
And it's not meant to. At the same time, Mark wanted to include title insurance, but if there's money left over, okay. And somebody wants title insurance, it's part of the $3,000, great. But at the end of the day, this is only to help those that really come to the city and say, we don't know what we can do about it. And this is no different than someone coming to the city and saying, we need a new fence and a new awning. How can we get that? Well, I think this is a much better program because it's actually helping people who are lost. And so I think you have your safeguard at $3,000. It's not meant for everybody, and it's completely voluntary, which means they have to ask to be included in the program.
Madam Mayor, I agree. And the only reason I was bringing up these issues, I just want to make sure we know have the other issues covered, because I do think this is a really good program. I actually remember talking with a name from the past.
Jim Christie.
Well, Bernie Malone, actually.
Oh, I spoke to Jim Christie about it.
And I never really spoke to Jim about it, but I certainly spoke to Bernie Malone about it 10 years ago. And I've actually even talked to my wife about it, because she does these types of things about how it would work. And again, my actually concern is that 3,000 isn't enough. I think that the going rate for a summer administration is 3,500 to 5,000. So
Again, everyone should have some skin in the game.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's a $3,000 match, right?
No match, it's just
It's just
3,000.
It's
$3,000.
We go up to
$3,000.
3,000 if they want to go to 5,000, and then, they could put the 2,000.
No, yeah, we're
Right.
the first,
And then
we're
j-
the first 3,000.
But
Right.
we're the experts, so we can guide them, and I think that's the whole point here, Aaron.
Yeah.
We're gonna make sure they have an attorney that's not gonna be a fly-by-night, take the money and run.
Right.
And so, maybe, they probably have a couple thousand that they could use for
Right.
getting a good title, so they can go out and get a mortgage for 100,000.
Right. I was going to echo the same concerns about the requiring the title insurance. I also wanted to be clear. So it's not just the identified heirs properties that would be able to take advantage of this program.
Right, there could be someone else out there that we didn't catch. So, yeah, if
Right.
we find that they are heirs property, they would take advantage of this program.
And then I wanted to propose actually increasing the limit of the assessed value to 400,000. And I wanted to show you why, though. If you could go back to the East Stuart map. Okay, so the houses to the right that are in the little cul-de-sac type neighborhood, that's Sherwood, and then towards the south of the park is Sierra Heights. That neighborhood and Sierra Heights both kind of operate within East Stuart. These communities kind of act as tandem, and they suffer from a lot of the same issues as East Stuart does. But the problem is that if you look at the houses in those neighborhoods, some of them are newer. East Stuart houses we're looking at built in the 60s. We're looking at houses here built in like the 80s. But they suffer from the same issues where a past generation, somebody didn't get a clear title, and now we have several heirs, or we aren't sure about who owns it. So that's the only reason. But they are a little higher up on the price by about $50,000. So that's the only,
2,000 more than 3,000.
right. That's the only reason I would
But
say
it's the
that.
assessed value and not the market value, and so
The assessed
those,
Right.
and so the generationally owned homes that have been there for years, most of the homes in East Stuart, for example, you look at the assessed values in like the 30,000, 40, you can look 30, 40. A bunch of them there's very few even over 100,000 on that list, and even like a home I owned for 24 years, when I sold it, the assessed value was 150, but it sold for a lot more than 400, so.
Right. No, I know. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying, though, is that the assessed value of those houses are higher because the market values are
Yeah,
higher.
but they're not even reaching anywhere near, most of them, the 400. They're reaching even to 300. I bet we could probably pull up any one of the houses.
And again, I think we start with a program. If we
Right.
see it's working, we can always expand it. Let's
I agree.
help the most needy.
Let's start here.
And just, I want to make sure that this still does include, let's say, Mike's example, if the person waits till they die, yes, then it's going to be probated and somebody's going to have to deal with it, and there's going to be issues, but what's happening in those cases, and it happens in a lot of cases, is about 2 weeks before the person dies, they sign a quitclaim deed to their son. Then they sign another quitclaim deed to their daughter. Then and so a bunch of these things get filed, and so it's not being probated because they don't own it anymore. It's just been passed, but who was it passed to? So that's why I say clear title should be the goal. A title policy should be the goal. That doesn't always indicate it's an estate. It could be somebody who tried to bypass their estate and pass that ahead of time.
Mark, that's a quiet title, not a title policy. That's a whole different legal proceeding, where then you have to go and file a lawsuit to quiet, what they call quiet the title. And so then that's And that happens occasionally in these probate matters as well. But what that is a proceeding where they file a lawsuit, they serve all the potential owners or interest in the property, and then the court determines who has title and what their vested interest in. And at that point, the title is clear from that point on, and you can get a title policy.
Again, let's start with what we
I
have.
know,
and
I'm
we
just
can-
explaining what that,
we
what
can
that
move
is.
on.
I have one comment.
Yes.
$300,000, is that for assessed value for 2024, that we're gonna lock it in? Because, for instance, if this program is still going on for 2-3 years, we do have some properties that are a little over 250, and they could go above.
Well, I think for right now, we're gonna do it for this year.
Okay,
We're gonna see, we may have nobody.
Okay.
So let's just get it done for this year, and then you can bring it back for an amendment.
Okay.
Okay, good deal. All right, so any more comments? Any comments from the public? We have a motion for approval by,
And I'm sorry, just one more point.
yes,
But now you are actually going to reach out to the properties you have identified,
Correct, yes.
just with the mailer,
We'll do through notices, right?
and make sure you emphasize this is voluntary.
Right, I will.
Okay.
we have a motion for
Thank you.
approval. We have a second by Board Member Campanelli. So roll.
CRA, Chair Bruner,
Yes.
Board Member Breckville,
Yes.
Yes.
Board Member McDonald,
Yes.
Board Member Campani,
Yes.
Board Member Collins, Vice Chair Rich.
Yes.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned.